And moving forward, are you ready to get a limited edition Happy Meal?
Yes.
They should really make like the box set for this album should be like
An old school Happy Meal box with like the big ass eyes and shit.
Do you think they could get sued if they don't call it a Happy Meal or refer to themselves as Happy Meal Limited?
I still feel like they would. Because I feel like they've towed the line so many times with their name that like McDonald's just fucking watching them, just waiting for them to slip up to sue them.
Time to go over the latest HMLTD album, West of Eden. HMLTD is a London art rock, post-punk, alternative rock band from...
Post-punk is just the best label for them.
Yeah,
but they have so many other like genre influences.
Yeah.
They're a band.
Yeah.
They're a band and they exist within genres.
Yeah. But they also take influence from elements of trap, new rave, glam rock.
But also new wave.
Synth pop's on here.
Yeah.
J-pop's on here.
Western type music.
Pop, yeah. Western music, like
with
yeehaw music.
Well,
like
to the door, like with that fucking twangy ass.
I know,
guitar.
I'm saying yeehaw music because it's
yeehaw.
not country. It's
it's like yeehaw music. Western. It's called Western music. Western is a genre. You fucking idiot.
No, it's yeehaw music because it has the yees and the haws. The band consists of lead vocalist Henry Spolowski, guitarist James Donovan and Duck Peterman, bassist Nico Monblatt, keyboardist Zachary Cases.
I think he left.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he left at one point in the band during the process of making this album, which I'll get into more when we talk about.
And drummer Achilles Sarnatarius. They have some really uncommon names.
Yeah.
And I can't read. So
I know you can't.
It's a perfect storm of
I could have helped
terrible.
you, but honestly, this was just really funny.
It's just let me fall into the pit.
It was fun watching you fall.
Are you going to do anything? Are you going to explain more about this man?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about their last EP.
No, I wrote that there just as a buffer if you didn't want to do anything, but like I was just going to let you go.
I was going to talk about the process of making this album.
I was just going to let you go over their history because it seems like you're very invested in this.
Oh, I love this band. This is a band that I'm really, really into. I have been into for a really long time, and I've been waiting for this album for a really long time, even though I wasn't aware that they were working on this specific version of it for as long as they apparently have been. I've just been waiting for them to just release music because they had a really weird state for a while where they just weren't releasing anything. We would get like a single every other couple of like 6 months, and that was it. And I was really worried that this band was going to just die and be forgotten, which would have been a shame because they're a really unique band. So they formed, they've had a lot of weird controversy over their like career for like kind of stupid reasons. They've been accused of like queer baiting because of their aesthetic, despite none of them being actually gay. So that was like a controversy they had to deal with. They were picked up by like a major record label who then just fucked them over every step of the way, which caused one of their members to quit, like just in the process of making this album. They had to pretty much scrape an entire album that they made at one point because they were just told they weren't going to be able to release it.
Scrap, not scrape. Scrape is just like you take the album and just like you just scratch it. You just scratch it.
Fine, scrap the album.
They had to scratch the album.
They did in order to get that true grimy aesthetic. You have to scratch your album.
They had DJ Premier scratch the album.
Exactly. But they've just been through a lot of shit lately for really no reason. They've just constantly been getting fucked over either by misplaced hatred or their record label picking them up and then dropping them and then just fucking them over every step of the way. They lost a band member, which, you know, for a group as close-knit as they are, that's gotta be rough. And they've just kind of been fucked over so much that I'm not only amazed that this album does exist, but I'm amazed how, like, solidly good the album is. This is an album that if it was bad would have 100% made sense. Yeah. Because they've been through just so much shit in the process of making this album. It would be understandable if they just kind of tried to get this done so that they could still remain some form of relevancy.
Yeah. So like they put out, they're mostly known from their single to the Door, which came out in 2017, and their EP that released in 2018, Hate Music, Last Time, Delete, EP, which had tracks I really enjoyed. Pictures of You, which is really just like a poppy alternative rock song. But the music video, if you haven't seen it, is fucking brilliant and uncanny as shit. And it's amazing. Proxy Love,
which
big,
also has a
bold,
great music video.
Yeah.
They have great music videos, just period. Like, if you're comfortable with mild pornography,
that's what Pictures of You is.
I highly recommend watching their music videos.
Proxy Love, which is this huge flamboyant
also
ballad.
they got kicked off of Instagram, I forgot, because they basically like posted like screenshots from their music video and they're tagged as porn, so they got their Instagram account deleted. So they
not know that.
Yeah, they've just been through so much shit. Like, that's also why nobody heard it if you're from a while, because they just weren't able to post anything.
Also, a Mannequin, which is this huge, almost runway-like track, which is completely amazing.
Yeah, about being in love with a mannequin and wishing that the mannequin could come to life so that they could have like true love, and then randomly switches to like a female vocalist from the perspective of the inanimate mannequin. Their music is fucking insane. It's ridiculous.
The funny fact is, I knew what you were talking about, but you explaining it so just
better.
No, just like flatly.
That's what it is.
What it is. It's just
it is what it is, and that's how their music is. And part of why I love it so much is their music can either be like these deeply like metaphorical ballads about ideas like Satan, Luella, and I, or it's just fucking Mannequin and they don't give a fuck. Or you get tracks like Flex, which unfortunately isn't on this. Well, not unfortunately, but it's not on this album. It's one of their singles that they released, where it's literally just about the love of female bodybuilders and how they don't give a fuck and how you really shouldn't give a fuck what they do either. It's amazing. This band's great. They're ridiculous. They're over the top. They're incredibly flamboyant. One of the things I talked about their image is how they grew up in like a very toxically masculine city where looking and dressing different automatically means you had to be gay, even though they weren't gay. So for them, like, the way they dress and the way they act isn't about being gay or queer in any way. It's purely about just redefining masculinity, which is great. That's a great thing.
So this album, I was really excited for it because all the singles just seem completely different and
so
strange.
And it's so weird how like far back the singles for this album were being released, and knowing the way they made it makes you wonder, like, did they pull just from previous singles to help make the album, or were these planned for the album to begin with, but then the album just kept getting fucked over and pushed back? Like, how much of this has been planned out for a long time, and how much were they getting fucked over? Because even when they released it, they said like, this is an album that's been years in the working, so like they've been trying to make this shit forever.
I think I was really anticipating this album, but I also, first listen, don't get me wrong, I thought there were spectacular moments. To the Door, Loaded, Saint Luella and I, even though I think it's a little bit long, 149,
both Joanna's really good.
Both Joanna's are great on here. And then Death Drive. But something about the layout, I don't know what it is, but I think it's just like, because this album's kind of all over the place, and it's so flamboyant and strange, and it really doesn't stick to one note. I found it very like polarizing. Not that I thought the music was bad, because like even moments like Saint Luella and I thought were long. They had that depth and progression. So like anything I didn't like on here at first, I thought it wasn't because I thought it was bad. I just felt like there was some weird disconnect that I didn't really understand, because the progression, there's risk, there's entertainment to these tracks, but I felt like putting them together is just so strange. And like thinking about this album and like re-listening it today, I really like this album more as individual tracks in the collection of their sums.
Yeah.
Because when you play them individually and you go over the aspects of what makes like things like The West is Dead or Mikey's songs so interesting, they're better more looking at them in that context than like listening them to a bunch of other tracks.
Yeah, they're placed in the whole.
Yeah. Because there's moments that are definitely better and way more interesting than things like Mikey's song. Because Mikey's song is just a plain old synth pop ballad.
Yeah, which is a really good synth pop
ballad, but it's such a different experience from everything else.
Yeah, but when you have that like right after Satan, Low and I, which is just like massive, like David Bowie-esque, like,
glam rock
song, and then right before Why, which is this weird experimental Japanese vocalized like.
Which I like. I think people are going a little bit too harsh on that track because they acknowledge in the title the physical emotion you should be feeling,
which is why.
Why?
Yeah. And like for a band that is this band, like this is HMLTD, like if you're jumping into this completely new, you're gonna be confused. But like if you've been following this band, you know that why is a question you're supposed to be asking just kind of a lot, to be honest. Like you go in, you listen to a song like Pictures of You, which just sounds like a pretty whatever, like it's good, but like it's a pretty straightforward alt rock song. You watch the music video, you're just like, why?
Yeah.
And like that's what this band thrives on, is just making you kind of go, why? But like it's a spectacular, like it's a show. And they kind of recognize that a lot of what they do is a show. It's an act. Like he even talks about like his vocalization, like how it sounds like this posh, a little like over the top, like sophisticated vocals. Like he doesn't go for like the working class vocals from where he came from, like a lot of like modern punk bands go for. He goes for like the older, posh, more privileged sounding vocals of somebody
Sleaford
like
mod vocals.
Yeah, he goes for like a David Bowie-esque vocals. He goes for like that higher like class act, and that's what a lot of this is. It's like it's an act, and a lot of what they do is about the act of performing, which means sometimes you're going to be asking why.
Yeah,
a lot.
This album reminds me a bit, and like it's not in the same context. It's in like how the album I think works is the first Gorillaz album, because I personally really enjoy the first Gorillaz album. I know a lot of people don't care for it, but I think there's just so many ideas that they're cool on their own.
Yeah.
But when you put them in the album, especially when you have like big singles attached to it, like Clint Eastwood, it didn't make any sense to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think this on its own, you have huge singles like To the Door and Loaded, and when you get into this, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, or you have like Where's Joanna, which has been like their live staple from like the beginning. Like that's a track that like has existed with the band as long as the band has been a thing, and people have been literally like screaming like, when are you going to give this like an actual studio release? And to their response to that question was just pure silence until recently.
So some moments I want to go over. Loaded is a fantastic just ballad. It's just completely catchy. And currently in the settlement of where a lot of people are, is just like, fucking, I'm gonna sell out.
Yeah, and like it's also kind of dealing with the way they got fucked over by like their studio. Like they sold their soul to the devil to like try to make it big because they were all really fucking poor, and then they kind of got fucked over too.
And then at the end, they're just left still poor, but their gun is
fucking loaded.
You have moments like To the Door, which has this great Ballad of Calamity James before it.
Yeah.
That transitions super perfectly. It makes it even feel way bigger, way more Western-esque. It works in that ballad. It's so energetic and surprising. The little trap interludes, the moody trap abysses that this thing falls into just stick in my head.
Yeah.
Then you get into like Saint Luella and I, which begins with these good tangy guitars that is a void. I preferably think it needs to be shortened a little bit, but the second half, when you go into the glam rock, David Bowie-esque material, it is completely brilliant and completely exciting and bold and unexpected. Mikey's Song is a synth pop ballad that doesn't like completely. This is where like the flow of the album, I think, just I lose context.
Yeah, stops flowing like an album and just starts becoming a collection of really good tracks.
Yeah, and then Why, especially right after this, is just the J-pop it's good, it's interesting,
but it still makes you wonder why.
Just,
like what was the plan behind this album a little bit?
Yeah. 149 has these terrific, grandiose strings that are completely just mesmerizing. Where's Joanna
has his vocals, the way he's like so strained, and he seems like he's literally embodying like that disturbed character that he's writing from the perspective of. It's just so all-encompassing of his vocals.
So here's the thing about Where's Joanna and Joanna, those two tracks combined. So Joanna obviously talks about a guy who's either... I got like issues of like trans, but I also got like multiple personality disorder. Which one?
I think
because the second half leads to more. It's like this guy's completely unwell.
I think it's supposed to be more along the lines of, because like he's talked about it a lot, is how basically where he lived they would beat out any sense of femininity.
Okay, because that's like they talked about how beating Joanna out of him, so that makes sense for that issue. But also like the second track where it's Joanna.
Well, he also like in like one of the last lines and where's Joanna is when he screams, "I am Joanna."
Okay,
and it's kind of just turns into this whole like thing about how like I guess self-internalized hatred, I guess.
Yeah.
And how like society tries to beat something out of you to the point where it kind of forces you to try to beat it out of yourself.
Yeah, and it's like the opening lines of where Joanna just kind of confused me is I got Joanna's head in my closet. I got her teeth collecting in a little jar. Yeah. It's just that kind of confused me. Because I think I kind of understood where the strings were connecting, but like I just didn't know.
I also love like the weird line in there when they're talking about whose fingers, like, oh, those are Hannah's. Like it doesn't matter that he killed somebody. It's specifically about to say he killed Joanna. If he killed Hannah, that's fine. No one gives a shit. But like.
Nobody Stays in Love is a bassy alternative ballad. And then finally, Blank State talks about... Blank State and War is Looming, I think, probably the worst tracks on here, which is I don't think they're still bad, good. But like... Blank Slate, I really like the idea of starting new and like having this mass revolution. It reminds me a lot of what that track, the Father John Misty track... it's like the fourth track on there. It's off Dark Comedy or Pure Comedy. What happens after the revolution? I can't remember what it's called for the life of me. But it's more about that track dealt with like the chaos after a revolution, how everyone's just bored and like empty inside. And I think this track kind of leads to more of an idea of starting new and like the openness and the fear behind it at the same time. And then at the end, War is Looming. It's more of talking about how we're almost constantly on the edge of just war in a sense, but it's also talking about issues of like gender inequality and how men will never know what they're dealing with. Yeah, and how it almost feels like we're constantly at the edge of revolution. Yeah. And that's all I really say. I really like this album as pieces. Yeah. I think not the curation because the tracks are good. It's just the combination of them I just found really strange.
I'm wondering if there's like a way you could like reorder this where it like flows a little bit better without cutting any of the tracks out. I feel like the opening, like from West is Dead to Sing Low and I, is like really well curated and like organized. But I feel like there's gotta be a way to like transition from the more like Western influence stuff to more of the like post-punk balladry and like bizarre soundscapes from things like Why. I feel like there's gotta be a way to do it just using these tracks, but I just feel like they didn't do it.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this though. So I just think the layout could have been better executed. Yeah. Keep in mind the scores. If you're telling me in this right now, I think this is a 8+.
Yeah, this is like an 8.5. If they had the album formatted better, it'd be like a 9.
Yeah.